What Happens If You Stop Eating for 72 Hours Straight is a story about a hidden biological machine inside of you that has been waiting for a signal you have not sent in years. Most people think of fasting as a slow drain of a battery, a gradual weakening until you eventually just run out of fuel and collapse. But here's what nobody tells you. Your body is not a battery. It is a highly advanced hybrid engine with a secondary high-performance fuel tank that most of us have left to rust in the dark. When you cross the 72-hour mark, you aren't just getting hungry. You are witnessing a profound systemic takeover where your cells decide to stop waiting for a delivery and start hunting for survival. The force at work here is a massive gap between your ancient DNA and your modern environment. For millions of years, our ancestors lived in a world of extreme feast and extreme famine. Food was never guaranteed. Because of this harsh reality, our bodies did not just learn how to survive periods without eating, they learned how to use those quiet times to perform deep, essential maintenance. Scientists who study human evolution have found that we are actually hardwired to expect this specific kind of biological stress. When we remove that stress by eating constantly from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, we keep our engines stuck in first gear. We never let the system cool down. The door to our internal repair shop stays firmly locked. Let me tell you what's really happening when we finally let that primary fuel tank run completely dry. The first 6 hours feel like a normal Tuesday. You have finished your last meal, your blood sugar is elevated, and your pancreas is pumping out insulin to usher all that fresh glucose into your cells. This is the era of absolute abundance. Your body is busy building, storing, and relaxing. But around hour 8, the environment begins to change. Your body realizes that no more reinforcements are coming down the pipeline. To keep your brain from shutting down, your liver begins tapping into its emergency reserves, a stored form of starch called glycogen. You have about 24 hours of this backup fuel stored away. It is your body's buffer against a bad day, and as it drains, your insulin levels begin to plummet. This drop is the crucial trigger. Insulin is the biological equivalent of a heavy steel padlock. As long as it is high, your body fat is locked away. Totally untouchable. But as that lock finally falls away, the true power of your biology begins to unfold. By hour 12, you have entered the transition zone, and this is where most people quit because they mistake a simple signal for a total catastrophe. You feel an intense, hollow pang in your stomach. Your head might ache. We call this feeling hunger, but your body calls it ghrelin. Ghrelin is a hormone that operates exactly like a persistent, loud alarm clock. Most people think ghrelin rises and stays high until you eat. But here's the twist. It is entirely rhythmic. It spikes aggressively at your usual meal times because it expects food based on your daily habits. Then, even if you do not eat a single bite, it naturally goes back down. Your body isn't telling you it's dying, it's just checking its watch and noticing you're late for lunch. Your body was keeping this quiet the whole time. Hunger is not a cumulative buildup of pain. It is a wave. If you can ignore the alarm eventually stops ringing entirely. But what is happening under the surface at hour 18 is much more tactical. Your liver is running dangerously dry on its backup sugar. To keep the lights on and your heart beating, your body begins a process of biological alchemy. It starts converting non-carbohydrate sources, like circulating proteins and fats, into brand new sugar. You are now officially running on a cocktail of your own internal resources. Because easy sugar is becoming scarce, your body starts looking for ways to become hyper-efficient. It begins to scan the horizon of your bloodstream, looking for any waste it can burn for fuel. You are transitioning from a creature that consumes energy to a creature that recycles it. By the 24-hour mark, you cross the threshold into one of the most debated states in human biology, ketosis. Since your backup sugar is gone, your liver completely changes its job description. It starts cracking open your stored body fat and turning it into water-soluble molecules called ketones. These aren't just a cheap backup fuel for emergencies, they are a premium energy source. Most people don't know this, but your brain actually loves ketones. They burn incredibly clean, producing significantly fewer damaged molecules than regular sugar.
Think of those damaged molecules as the biological equivalent of exhaust soot that ruins your cells over time. This is why, paradoxically, many people find that their persistent brain fog totally lifts at the end of the first day. Your body has successfully switched from burning the cheap, flickering candle of sugar to a steady, high-output generator of pure fat. Then, as you move into the second day, right around hour 36, the real magic comes out of hiding. It is a process called autophagy. The word translates to self-eating, but that makes it sound far more destructive than it actually is. Think of it more like a high-end demolition and renovation crew. In a world of constant snacking, your cells are inherently messy. They have broken proteins, damaged power plants, and metabolic debris lying around because they have never had the downtime to clean up. It's like a kitchen that has been cooking non-stop for decades without anyone wiping down the counters. But when you haven't eaten for 36 hours, the cell realizes that if it wants to survive, it has to aggressively recycle. It starts breaking down its old, dysfunctional parts and turning them into raw materials for new, healthy components. It is the ultimate biological spring cleaning. Let's expose them. Those old, corrupted cellular structures that have been slowing you down for years are finally dismantled and burned for fuel. The question is, what happens to your mind during this massive internal shift? By hour 48, your body is in a state of high-alert resourcefulness. You might expect to be utterly exhausted, but many people report a strange, vibrating sense of clarity. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect, ruthless sense. If you were an ancient human who hadn't caught a meal in 2 full days, the last thing you would want to be is tired and confused. You would need to be sharp, focused, and driven to track down food. Your brain is now being bathed in a special factor that scientists often call Miracle-Gro for the brain. It actively encourages the growth of new neurons and strengthens the connections between existing ones. Your biology is trying to make you smarter so you can solve the immediate problem of your own hunger. However, here's what's hiding in plain sight: the harsh physical trade-off. While your brain feels hyper-focused, your physical energy might start to feel incredibly heavy. Your body is intelligently trying to conserve unnecessary movement. Your heart rate might stay steady, but you will likely find that your emotional patience is paper thin. You are operating on pure survival overdrive. This isn't a state meant for relaxation, casual conversation, or watching television. It is a state meant for the hunt. Your body firmly believes you are in the middle of a catastrophic famine, and it is preparing you for one final desperate push before the internal machinery actually begins to break down. Now we reach the final act, the 60 to 72 hour window. This is the deep water. At this point, something genuinely remarkable happens to your immune system. Research suggests that prolonged fasting for 3 full days can actually flip a regenerative switch in your core cells. As your body continues its aggressive recycling mission to find protein, it starts intentionally breaking down old, inefficient white blood cells. It destroys the immune cells that are damaged or overactive. When you finally break the fast and eat again, your body uses its freshly awakened stem cells to rebuild a brand new, highly effective immune system from scratch. It is a total system reboot. Most people spend their entire adult lives relying on the exact same aging immune fleet, slowly accumulating damage. But at 72 hours, you have essentially forced your biology to decommission the old rusted ships and launch an entirely new navy. But here is the truth that the extreme fasting community rarely likes to admit. The 72-hour mark is also where the law of diminishing returns hits like a brick wall. Beyond this point, the cellular cleaning benefits start to be outweighed by the physical wasting costs. Your body can only recycle so much before it has to start looking at functional muscle and vital tissue to stay alive. The power isn't in starving yourself endlessly. The power is entirely in the short transition. Let's expose the biggest myth of all, though. You might read these timelines and think that 72 hours of fasting will turn you into an untouchable superhuman or permanently cure your bad habits. But here is the reality check. Your biology, your genetics, and these fascinating deep cleaning processes only account for about 5 to 10% of your actual long-term health outcomes. The overwhelming remaining 90% is entirely decided by your human agency. It is decided by what you do every single day when you are not fasting. A 3-day reboot is completely meaningless if the software you run for the other 362 days of the year is completely corrupted. We all love the seductive idea of a quick hack that happens over a long weekend, but the human body is a long-form story, not a short-form video. You cannot outfast a chronically destructive lifestyle. The true reality hiding in plain sight is that your body is far more capable of handling severe scarcity than it is of handling the constant, unrelenting abundance of the modern world. We were fundamentally built for the extreme ebb and flow, the massive feast, and the extended fast. When you intentionally stop eating for 3 days, you aren't discovering a brand new way to live. You're just remembering a very old one. You are proving to yourself that you are not a helpless slave to the chemical alarm clock of your own hunger, and that your cells possess a deep, ancient wisdom that predates your cravings. Think of your own body like a grand, ancient library. Most of us only ever sit in the brightly lit lobby, nervously reading the exact same 3 magazines over and over again, entirely fueled by constant snacks. Fasting is simply the act of walking past the front desk, unlocking the heavy door to the basement, and realizing there are thousands of volumes of ancient survival code written directly into your DNA that you have never even bothered to open. It is an incredibly empowering realization. You are your own sanctuary, and you are your own mechanic. If you have ever felt like your own body was a machine that was slowly breaking down out of your control, remember that you are the one holding the keys to the basement. What specific part of your biological library have you been ignoring lately? Have you ever pushed past that screaming mealtime alarm and found the intense clarity waiting on the other side? Or does the mere idea of missing a single meal feel like a crisis you aren't ready to face? Tell me in the comments below about a time you realized you were vastly stronger than your immediate impulses, whether it was pushing through a fast, conquering a grueling physical challenge, or simply a quiet moment where you chose long-term discipline over short-term comfort. Let's see how many of us are actually willing to fire up the hybrid engine we were born with.